Roxane. I'm the director of Station F, which is the world's biggest startup campus based in central Paris.
As we can see, it's under development. How did it arrive?
There's a huge story around Station F. So this is a historical monument that's from 1929. It used to be a freight station. The building itself is 34,000 square meters, and for people who have a hard time imagining what that looks like, it's literally the Eiffel Tower laying on its side. So it's huge. And essentially when we wanted to create this space, we were looking at Paris, we were realizing the ecosystem is really strong. We have a lot of strong startups, a lot of strong VCs, strong accelerators. This was a few years ago, of course. But there was nothing really emblematic that made people, especially from abroad, look at Paris and go, that is a place where innovation is happening. And they would do that with maybe places like London, Silicon Valley, of course, Berlin. And so now today we have this huge, giant campus in the middle of Paris where we're bringing all these actors together, and we're going to put an entire ecosystem under one roof.
Why would you say it's important to put the entire ecosystem under one roof?
So I think there's a couple ways to answer that question. I think part of it is the sheer volume. When we have a huge number of startups and resources in the same place, they're able to share a lot of things that they normally wouldn't. I also think the fact that we're putting an entire ecosystem here, we're going to have different public services, private services, investors. We have a number of different programs, tons of startups. They all come with their own resources, their own knowledge, and this will help other companies not have to run around all over Paris, all over the city, having to figure out how to start their business, and they can just build their product.
Who is behind Station F?
So we have an incredible entrepreneur that's behind Station F. He's called Xavier Leclerc. He's very well known in France, somewhat less known outside of France. I don't know why. So he runs a telecoms company in France, but he's also heavily involved in the ecosystem. He has a free coding school in the north of Paris called 42. They also have a branch in Silicon Valley. He has a very active venture fund called Kima Ventures. They do 100 investments per year. And now with Station F, he is the sole investor behind this project, which is 250 million euros that he's investing into this space.
If I'm correct, I believe that you have a mix of institutions and companies also backing Xavier Leclerc's vision and the project called Station F.
Yeah, we have a number of partners that have kind of joined this big initiative that we're running. So we have companies like Facebook, Vent Privé, Zendesk that are going to launch startup programs. Actually, in our startup space, we'll have 10 to 20 different programs by different companies like those. We have a couple business schools like French business school HEC that's also moving its startup activities into our space. So this is one example. But also as we open up, we're seeing more and more companies from different backgrounds, sometimes even organizations that you wouldn't really expect to see them in a startup space, that are contacting us and saying, can we provide our data? Can we provide services, resources? So we're seeing a lot of people really interested in entrepreneurship thanks to this project.
Why do you believe that it's the right time to build such a space?
So I think that the ecosystem has been on the rise for like the last few years. We've seen more and more startups being created, a higher level of startups. We've seen tons of unicorns all over the place, a lot of investment. There's a ton of capital flowing around France, flowing around Europe. And I think that probably the reason it makes sense today to do it in a place like Paris, we're seeing a geopolitical shift in places like, well, with Brexit and maybe a little bit in the US as well. And I think France, fortunately, has actually had a really strong, they've kind of been very welcoming so far to a lot of the international entrepreneurs. A lot of different programs have been trying to address entrepreneurs from abroad to come to this space. Capital is more than abundant. And I think when you compare costs with places like Silicon Valley, which are now very expensive, France still looks very attractive to come and start a business. And so when we launched our applications, we had startups from around the world, from places like Nepal, Senegal, Jamaica. They were all applying to Station F in Paris, which is very interesting. Maybe it wouldn't have happened a few years ago.
If I were a Brazilian entrepreneur or a Brazilian company, what should I do in order to get in touch with Station F? Are you still looking for startups, companies?
So we are always looking for companies. We had a lot of companies apply in our first round of applications, but we have rolling applications. So anytime a startup wants to come, they can apply online at stationf.co. We have actually a network of entrepreneurs around the world that help us pick these companies that come to our space, and we actually have people in Brazil that are helping us. These are very experienced entrepreneurs. And so we would love companies from Brazil to come to our space. Depends on what programs they want to do. Obviously, we have 15 to 20 that we will have when we open. And so it depends on what vertical they're in, what stage of development. But if they want to apply to our general program, they just have to be an early stage startup with the MVP, proof of concept, and be full-time dedicated to their project.
When is Station F2 open?
So we are opening hopefully in the beginning of summer. We don't have an exact date yet, but shouldn't be too far from now. Obrigada, rio.Futuro.